You're watching Football Daily, and here's this week's biggest transfer news and headlines. Let's kick it off with an absolute humdinger, and Calcio Mercato have claimed that Antoine Griezmann is still a huge target for PSG and new manager Unai Emery. Yes, the Frenchman might have only signed a new 5-year contract that will keep him at the Calderon until 2021 in June, but somehow he is still being bandied about the transfer mill. Unai Emery is apparently desperate to sign the new striker and doesn't fully trust Edinson Cavani with the number 9 shirt. However, he is painfully aware he would have to spend around €100 million just to poach him away from Atletico. Arsenal are also reportedly tracking the Frenchman, however with a new deal signed and a clear love for Simeone, we just don't see this one happening in a million years, so do better Calcio Mercato. Next up, let's look at Chelsea's pursuit of a striker, which has now led them away from Alvaro Morata and to Everton's Romelu Lukaku. The Telegraph claim that Antonio Conte is willing to make a massive £67 million bid for the Belgian, who only left Chelsea for the Toffees 2 years ago for £28 million. However, despite Lukaku's desperation to ditch Everton at the earliest opportunity, if Ronald Koeman doesn't lower his £75 million valuation, it doesn't look like a deal will happen. The man that Lukaku could be replacing though is Diego Costa, who was caught this week on camera telling Sergio Ramos that he wants to leave the Blues. However, Simeone doesn't seem as keen to sign Costa as the Spaniard is to leave Chelsea. That's because Atletico Madrid confirmed the signing of Sevilla's Kevin Gameiro earlier in the week. Costa is now floating at Stamford Bridge, caught between wanting to leave the club and a lack of suitors now Atletico Madrid aren't interested. Whether someone will stump up the required €45 million remains to be seen. Another player who looks like he's on his way out of Chelsea, rather surprisingly, is Brazilian playmaker Oscar, who is reportedly available for just £30 million. The most interested party seems to be Inter Milan, but even more surprisingly, the Sun claim that Antonio Conte has already sanctioned the deal personally. Roberto Mancini is said to be in the market for a playmaker and a striker should Mauro Icardi leave, however he may need that deal to go through first before signing any other big players due to financial fair play. Over on the red half of London, and Arsene Wenger's desperate search for a central defender goes on, and this week he's been linked to two very different calibre of centre-backs after Per Mertesacker got injured for around 6 months. The first is Valencia's German hardman Shkodran Mustafi, who is reportedly available for just €25 million after owner Peter Lim crazily decided he was ready to cash in on the 24-year-old. Unfortunately for Arsenal fans though, it seems Wenger has decided to turn in another direction and instead go after West Brom's Johnny Evans for £15 million. Let the chaos begin in the comments. One man who is going nowhere in this window though is Marco Verratti, after he ended speculation linking him with a move to Real Madrid by signing a contract extension until 2021. Unai Emery seemed to be facing an uphill struggle just to keep the diminutive Italian, so despite having a packed roster of midfielders will no doubt be a massive lift to the team. With Verratti joining Thiago Motta in signing a new deal and Gregor Krychowiak also joining from Sevilla, it seems almost inevitable now that Blaise Matuidi will leave the club though. And if you want to know more about his possible destination, head over to Football Daily right now, where me and Chris have analysed his possible move to Juventus. Both Manchester sides have also been busy so far in this window with drawn-out transfer sagas. However, one did end yesterday when Leroy Sane joined Manchester City. The German 20-year-old was highly coveted by Europe's elite sides, but Pep Guardiola managed to persuade him with the promise of first-team football and a bumper wage packet. The £37 million fee paid to Schalke could eventually rise to £42 million, however we understand that this involves up to 2 Ballon d'Or winning clauses that are extremely unlikely to be met. Another saga dragging on, this time over in the red half of Manchester, is of course Paul Pogba to Old Trafford, which seems like it is on the verge, finally, of an announcement. Sky Italia claim that it is set to be a world record-breaking deal that will see Juventus receive £92 million up front, and agent Mino Raiola will also receive an extra £10 million on top of that. With this move, Mourinho will have completed all 4 of his key signings, however the Times now claim that he is also looking for a central defender after a shaky pre-season at the back. And finally, Wales' Euro 2016 hero Hal Robson-Kanu could be in line for a big move after being released by Reading after Valencia and Atletico Madrid enter negotiations for his signature. So will Antoine Griezmann leave Atletico Madrid for PSG in a €70 million move? In my opinion, he won't, but what's your opinion? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out this week's transfer review over on Euro Football Daily, where me and Chris analyse Blaise Matuidi's potential move to Juventus and loads of others. And as always, guys, please do like and subscribe.